Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I'm finally ready to do my full review on the Spyderco Techno 1. Spoiler alert, it's a Spyderco I don't like, which happens now and then. If you watched my first impressions video on this knife, you'll see I was not enamored with it right off the bat. And a lot of Spydercos, I'm kind of a Spyderco fanboy if you haven't noticed. It's not that I have this undying devotion to them and think they can do no wrong, but a lot of my favorite knives happen to be Spydercos, and I really enjoy a lot of what they do. This one, nope. So let's talk about why. Before I jump into it though, this knife was loaned to me by my buddy YD Knives. I'm going to link to him down below. His Instagram will be in the description. Give him a follow, check him out. Super cool dude. He's loaned me a bunch of gear and plans on loaning me more still. So really appreciate all of his support. Show him some support on my behalf by dropping into his Instagram and giving him a follow, because he's a super rad dude. And if you like knives, which would probably be why you're watching this video, that's what his Instagram is about, knives. So anyway, the Techno, I don't know. I think if I get a chance to try a Techno 2, I will, because I've heard it said by a number of people that the Techno 2 is vastly better than the Techno 1, if you want to call it that. And I hope so, because this knife it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know. It just feels so... I think if I were to have to try to identify why I've seen this knife have any popularity, because I see photos of this knife every now and then. I feel like I've watched some reviews of this knife that were largely pretty positive. I think part of why it gets a lot of love is because it's a Swish design, Marcin Swish, Slige, I don't know how you say it, the guy behind the Swish, Slige Bowie. And he's done a number of designs for Spyderco that are fantastic. I still haven't owned a Bowie. I would like to, but they're real tough to get now. So maybe one day, but I've checked out at least the Spidey Chef, which is one of his designs, and I like that knife. What else is his? Oh, I know I've tried a couple. Anyway, he's got a number of designs at Spyderco. Even now the new Swayback, which I haven't tried yet and probably won't unless one gets sent to me. I'm not planning to buy one of those because I don't like Spydercos that I can't flick, which is part of what bothers me about this one. Anyway, my reasoning that I can formulate behind this knife having any popularity is because it's got his name on it, and a lot of people like what he does with Spyderco and what he does in general. And then beyond that, I think people just have to have really different tastes than me. To me, what I love about Spydercos usually is that I can Spidey flick them. I like the action. I like to Spidey flick. I like compression locks. I also like the frame locks that they do a lot of the time. I like their quality control, that I tend to get very good examples of anything that I buy from them. I like the way that they grind their knives most of the time. I like the ergos. And guess what? I don't like the action on this one bit. I feel like this is a bad knife action. It's like, even thumb rolling it out, it just doesn't feel very good to me. I don't know. I don't like the action. The ergos, I don't like. It's not a comfortable knife to hold. It's weirdly shaped where like my fingers do this weird curve thing when I'm choked up or when I'm choked back, and like it's a little bit sharp here where the lock interface is, and the clip, even being a wire clip, with how small this knife is, the clip is uncomfortable in my hand. It's not a comfortable knife for me to hold. I don't know whose hands it would be comfortable in. I just can't picture it being very comfortable. This blade stock is obscenely thick for how small this knife is, which if they had done a real aggressive hollow grind or something, maybe I could start to get behind it, but it is like painfully thick behind the edge. This is unacceptably thick behind the edge, in my opinion. It doesn't even cut well. And the cut testing I've done with it, like, will it cut through things because it has a sharp edge on it? Yeah, but the profile is not very good. And it's such a stubby little thing. And like, you'd feel like a small little blade like this would be really good for like utility, small, precise cutting. And it's not, because it's ground like garbage, in my opinion. It just doesn't make much sense to me. And I don't know. I feel like it's important for me to tell you when things are good and when things are not good. And I don't think this is good. I really just don't. If I were to make some kind of excuse for this, it would have to be that you just have to have different taste than I do. You have to like an action that is, I don't, like the Sebenza has a better action than this. So maybe if you're a Sebenza guy, that's kind of what this reminds me of. It's like this slow roll where there's tension the whole way, and it's like hydraulically smooth, but it's not satisfying to me to have to push it the whole way. I want a knife that I can flick out. I like a detent that allows me to do that, and either washers or bearings that allow me to do that. To thumb flick this, the frame is in the way of thumb flicking it. I have to come out on this weird angle and then push like outwards. And it's like, it's not easy to do. It's uncomfortable. Same thing with middle finger flicking it. They've covered so much of the hole with this lock bar that it's like, I can just barely get in there, and I've practiced it a ton. And even with all my practice, I get it like 1 in 5 times. That's, I don't understand. I don't understand this. This knife would be better with a thumb stud than with this hole in it. I'm Mr. Holes is greater than studs. On here, it's just this, the hole is not the right design, in my opinion, for this knife. And I don't know. Like, a knife this size should be a fantastic secondary knife. I have no desire to carry this as a secondary because it's going to be less functional at everything than my primary. My primary should be my big, almost like more bruisery, probably thicker behind the edge than my secondary, like harder task knife. Whereas my secondary is what I'd pull out for more finite, slicey little tasks that I'm just like opening a box real quick, that kind of thing. I don't have any knife that is thicker behind the edge than this. This is like as thick behind the edge as my Spyderco Tough was. And that's a 3V, basically folding axe chopper that's like super overbuilt and gigantic. I don't know. I feel like I can't really apologize for what a bad design I think this is. And that sucks to say because I think the designer of this knife has designed some other very cool, very functional, very well-made knives. So I don't know if this was just an exercise in quirkiness to make something that's like hysterically strange. It's so thick in every dimension. The scales are thicker than I feel like they need to be. The blade is like twice as thick as the scales are. The wire clips are usually good, but here it sits like too proud or something. I don't know. Maybe, I will say, this one has been refinished. So maybe that has something to do with it, because the original owner of this knife anodized it, and then YD Knives, I think he said he used like some Flitz polish, and he polished it to get that anodization off. Maybe with the original finish, it would somehow be better, but that's not going to change the blade. And I just think this blade is bad. I guess there's an argument there for piercing tasks, because it's kind of like a spear point, maybe drop point. I don't know what you'd exactly call it, but this isn't also a super stabby knife. And who wants to do piercing tasks? Like, you're not going to look at this as a defensive knife with this small of a blade on it and these ergos. It just doesn't make sense to me. And so, I don't know. I just feel like I kind of have to call bad. I think this is a bad knife. I wouldn't recommend this knife to anybody. I hope that the Techno 2 is better. I've heard that there are improvements on that one. So maybe that's why not that long after this became a thing, there was a Techno 2. So we'll see. If I try one of those, you guys will be the first to know. But this might be my least favorite knife that I've reviewed on this channel, including the Sebenza. I didn't hate the Sebenza. I'm unfair to it a lot of the time. Sebenzas are good knives. I just don't like them. But I think this is like functionally kind of a bad knife. The design just doesn't... I don't see what's the philosophy of use for this knife. I don't know what they were going for. Like, a knife this small and this unfunctional, I don't know. If this knife was 3 times the size, it would make sense to me to have a blade stock this thick and a grind like that, because then, like, okay, this is like an outdoor chopping knife. This knife doesn't belong outdoors. This knife shouldn't be chopping anything. It's tiny. It's just a thick, stubby, for no reason, little thing. And it's not fun to me that it's stubby, because it doesn't have a good action to save it. It doesn't have ergos to save it. Like, I don't know what's supposed to save this knife from its thick blade stock. It just doesn't have any performance merit to me. And all the cutting I've done with it has been like, this is not very good at cutting. I don't know. I'm just going to keep on talking in circles if I go on about it. But this is my full review of the Spyderco Techno. And it might be the worst knife, in my opinion, that I have reviewed yet. It's just not good. I wouldn't recommend it. So there you have it. Spyderco Techno. Yeah.